The camera glasses sent a video in December. I was not expecting it. I had not gotten the eyeglasses camera footage in over 3 months at the time. This time, it was a new person wearing the glasses. His remarks were not the same as everyone else that wore those eyeglasses in the last year because the others never knew their conversations were recorded. This man knew. This man was speaking to me, and he was making an offer I couldn't refuse. Let me start at the beginning. For one thing, I didn't buy the glasses for myself. I bought them to trick my mother. My mother had been coming to my apartment and doing very strange things. One day, she flipped the circuit breaker when I was in the bathroom. For 2 days, my heat wouldn't turn on, and I couldn't figure out why. I only knew it stopped working when she was here. I figured out it was the circuit breaker. Another time, she changed the refrigerator settings when I was in the bathroom, but she was only here for a few minutes, and she left, and it was 9 o'clock at night, so I went to bed. When I woke up, my milk was frozen. I hadn't realized that she touched the refrigerator until after I woke up. But because of the past with the circuit breaker, now I knew she was doing it on purpose. So I bought a pair of eyeglasses with cameras in it. You can't see the cameras. They're hidden. They look like little gold ladybugs on the corners of the glasses. If you turn the ladybugs in a certain direction, the cameras turn on. So I had turned on the cameras, and I had used my computer settings so that her eyeglasses were on motion detector. They only make footage if she is in motion, and then the videos are emailed to me. So I gave her the glasses, and I moved her lenses out of her regular glasses into these ones because I said, "Mom, these ladybugs are gold. Aren't they pretty?" And I never told her they were cameras. So this all started as a family drama. There was never supposed to be a crime committed. Susan was brushing her off. To my face, Susan would say Mom would never say that stuff. But in the car when I wasn't there, Susan was brushing it off and calling my mother crazy. But then to my face, calling me crazy and saying I imagined all of it. I got the feeling that Susan wanted to remain a neutral party. After a couple of months, I had figured out my mother was trying to make me be estranged because she thought I was only after an inheritance and didn't really love her. But there was nothing to inherit. My mother was renting the in-law apartment in a very large house. She did not own that house. The man who owned the house was renting her the tiny little in-law apartment, which was already furnished because his parents used to live there. When his parents retired and went to Florida, he rented their apartment to my mother. She did not even own the furniture, so it didn't make any sense. She had a car, but my car was newer than her car. I couldn't figure out what she was talking about with an inheritance. I thought maybe she was going senile, but after about 2 months, she donated those glasses to a charity shop because it was time to get new prescription eyeglasses. Her insurance covers them every 2 years, so at that point, it had been 2 years since her last lenses. She ended up with totally different glasses, and the camera glasses were now in a charity shop. So for a week, they sat still in an eyeglasses case with no motion going on because the eyeglasses case blocked the cameras from seeing any motion. So I didn't get any emails for a whole week until the charity shop sold the eyeglasses to a homeless man for $2. Once the man bought the glasses, I started getting the emails again, with every notification if he was in motion while he was wearing them, or if he was looking at a person who was in motion, or even a dog walking across the street. So I was getting notifications in the email. It was going to be 5-6 times an hour with little videos. Some of the videos were only 10 minutes long. After about 7 months, I had figured out this man was a homeless man. He had a backpack where he carried a sleeping bag and a couple of books of matches and his Army ID tag. Then he had a canvas duffel bag where he had some spare clothing and some bags of potato chips. This man would walk all over town, sometimes into the next county, picking up soda cans on the sides of the streets, bringing them to grocery stores to get money, and then at 4 o'clock, he'd go to a restaurant. By then, he had $30 or $40 a day he spent on food. Then he would find a porch, some nice wooden porch, go under it with his sleeping bag, and sleep for the night. Every Thursday, the man would visit a lady, and I never did figure out if this lady was his ex-girlfriend or his sister or who she was. But every Thursday, he would go to her house and offer to fix her screen door or fix something. Sometimes it was a window. Sometimes he painted the garage. Whatever. She would let him take a shower there, and she would cook him a hot meal. She would let him use her telephone. After a couple of hours, he would leave. On Saturday night, he would take any money he had saved up, and he would buy beer and sit on top of a bridge looking down at a road below. It was sort of one of those overpasses where the train goes above and the road is below with cars. And he would sit every Saturday night with 4 or 5 other homeless guys. A car would go by and they'd tell each other stories. Like if it was a Mustang, they'd say, "Oh, that's Pete. Pete's going to play golf." And if there was a Toyota, they would say, "Oh, that's Bob. Bob's going to work." They would always tell each other stories about whoever was in the cars based only on what the cars were. After a couple of hours, they'd all go back to wherever they sleep. In my guy's personal view, he slept under a porch, but it wasn't always the same porch. He'd arrive at the porch after dark and leave before the sun came up. Nobody ever knew. He'd leave his backpack and his duffel bag somewhere like a train station locker or somewhere, go collect cans all day, buy his dinner, and that was about it, except for his Thursday shower and his Saturday night story time. I watched this man for 7 months. Sometimes I wondered if I should try to reach out to him and find him. I didn't know how to tell him that he was being recorded. I didn't know if I was supposed to tell him. I didn't know what I was going to say, but it felt awkward and weird. By then, my mother had had the glasses for 2 months. The homeless man had them for 7 months already, so this was a 9-month project. For eyeglasses, I only spent $200 for. I did not know how to change the settings so that it would stop sending emails every time the cameras picked up motion. I really wasn't sure what to do. I thought about calling the company that makes the glasses to shut off the camera, but I was afraid they might, ban me from their products if they knew what happened, so I didn't tell anybody. Then, something changed. Something very different happened, and I needed to actually reach out and tell somebody about these glasses. The man was on the bridge on a Saturday night. I'd gone to bed early that day. I didn't know that this event was going to take place. I knew he'd be on the bridge, but I figured I could look at the video a different day. It didn't have to be in the moment, so I went to bed early. When I got up in the morning, I was busy. I had things to do. It was a Sunday morning. I had chores and errands, so I didn't really look at that email until noontime. And there was the interesting thing, the event that would change my circumstances. The men were on the bridge having their beer. 5 homeless men, the guy with the glasses and his 4 buddies. But they were telling stories about the cars like they always do. And they were talking about the guy with the Bentley was going to his yacht and all this stuff. One of the cars struck a pedestrian, but the car kept going. And the homeless men didn't even seem to notice. They were still telling stories about the other cars. So a different driver pulled over and reported the accident. And the officers came, and they identified the young man who was struck. He was a 24-year-old college student who appeared to be walking from one of the campus buildings to one of the dormitories 2 miles away. Well, the victim didn't survive, and the officers were asking any of the witnesses what they had seen. So, after I saw that video, and I noticed that everybody in the video said they didn't see anything, I went ahead and I looked at the video. And I looked at it about 4 times. The car is visible. The camera is so good, you can see the face of the driver. The license plate is visible. At that time, I turned on the news on a regular network just to see if they mentioned the accident. The accident would have happened around 9 o'clock at night on Saturday. This was around 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. I secretly hoped I wouldn't have to turn over the video. I hoped a different witness had come forward that wasn't seen in my video. Maybe someone had called in later, so I watched the newscast. Unfortunately, nobody knew who was driving. There were different witnesses saying it was a dark blue car, it was a black car, it was a dark gray car. Nobody was in agreement. Nobody saw the license plate. Nobody could even identify what kind of car it was because he was going too fast. One thing they all agreed on was that he was doing at least 70 miles per hour in a 50 miles per hour zone. So, knowing there was no other witness, I hung my head in shame for the voyeurism I had been doing. And I sent the video to the chief of police in the city where the accident happened. I hoped maybe they could solve the case. And in the email, I wrote a brief message about how my mother accidentally donated camera glasses to a charity shop, and one of the homeless men was wearing the glasses on top of the bridge, and that I get the videos because it was my own mother that received those glasses as a gift. I didn't hear from the police. I didn't hear from anybody official. I was sort of expecting to get a fine for voyeurism or something, but I didn't. I was watching the news later. It was about 2 months later. So at this time, 10 whole months had gone by. It was now October, and I hadn't seen any footage. The police must have found those glasses because I had not seen any camera footage in a long time. But 2 months after that accident, there was an announcement on the news. They had arrested the person driving. The car was owned by a woman in Oklahoma. She was 87 years old. They tracked her down first. Once they talked to her, they found out she had loaned the car to her nephew who lived in Rhode Island, and that he had had that car for more than 3 years. She couldn't drive anymore because she couldn't see very well. She still owned the car because she had the money for insurance. He didn't have any money. Her nephew was sort of a layabout. He never worked. He couldn't hold a job for more than a month. He had a lot of struggles, so she let him borrow the car. She didn't think it was a big deal. She paid for the insurance for him. So they asked her his address, and then they figured out who he was. They went to him. The car was in a garage at the house. He was living with his parents. Being her nephew, obviously, he was the son of her brother, so the parents answered the door and answered the questions about the car. The car had been in their garage at home for 2 whole months. They wouldn't allow their son to wash the car. They kept trying to encourage their son to turn himself in for 2 months. They knew he had done it because of the blood on the front of the car, which still was there, even though it was dry by then. So they picked up the man. He was a 24-year-old himself, no older than the victim, but he was, irresponsible. They showed him the video, and he pleaded guilty to vehicular manslaughter. He agreed to get 20 years in jail, and he didn't contest the charges. He didn't ask for any forgiveness. He didn't make any excuses. He hung his head in shame when he saw the video. He did say he thought he hit a dog, that he was going so fast everything was blurry, and he didn't know it was a human until he saw the video. But beyond that, he didn't make any excuses. The camera glasses sent a video in December. I was not expecting it. I had not gotten the eyeglasses camera footage in over 3 months at the time. This time, it was a new person wearing the glasses. His remarks were not the same as everyone else that wore those eyeglasses in the last year because the others never knew their conversations were recorded. This man knew. This man was speaking to me, and he was making an offer I couldn't refuse. It was the father of the pedestrian. He was wearing the glasses, and he was making the video in a mirror, knowing that any motion would trigger for a notification to come to me by email. He introduced himself. He told me that he was the father of the pedestrian. He said that he was very grateful that I had done the right thing and showed the police the video. He also said that the police already explained to him that these glasses were meant for me to monitor my elderly mother to see if she was senile. They were never intended to spy on a stranger because I had emailed that to the police originally. He said that he went to the homeless man. Once the police had the glasses and already, investigated who had the glasses at the time, he was able to get information from the police about the name of the man that was wearing the glasses and buy brand new glasses for that man, made for him by an eye doctor. He was also allowed to take the glasses from the police because they didn't know what else to do with it. Once the crime was over and the court was settled, it wasn't really part of a court case anymore, and they didn't know how to return it to me. They had my email address, but they had never contacted me. He asked the police if he could keep the glasses, and they said, sure. So I don't know if he knew somebody down there or what, but now he had the glasses, and he was looking in his bathroom mirror talking to me. And he had a fan behind him on a table in the bedroom pointed toward the bathroom, so the motion of the fan would keep the video running while he was trying to gather his ideas. And he made an offer I couldn't refuse. He said that he and his wife had gotten a very large settlement from the car insurance that was insuring the driver of the car. Apparently, that man had 4 other drunk driving charges in 4 different states before he went back to Rhode Island to live with his parents. He was insured on the Rhode Island address, but the insurance company had never checked to see if he had a record in other states. There were 4 separate states that had already charged him with drunk driving. And when he pled guilty to the reckless driving, drinking was never a factor until after it was revealed later by the aunt who actually owned the car. So, the parents of the pedestrian had gotten a substantial amount of money, and they wanted to give me part of it as a reward for the information that closed the case. They were willing to give me $3 million, so all I had to do was email this man. He told me his email address, and he told me that once he had an email from me telling him my address and where I live, he was going to drive over and give me a briefcase full of money. He was also going to give me my camera glasses back, which still, to this day, had my mother's lenses in it. He also explained that he wasn't wearing them on his eyes. He was wearing them on his forehead because he doesn't require glasses, and he didn't want to get a headache while he sent this message. So, I happily emailed the man. I told him my address and my phone number. He called me right away, and we spoke, and we laughed. Then he drove over, and as promised, he dropped off the glasses. He also taught me how to shut off notifications. Then I rotated the ladybug so that the cameras were no longer on. Then he gave me the briefcase full of money while he was there. We didn't talk for very long, maybe only 10 minutes, but long enough to learn how to shut off the notifications and long enough to remember how to shut off the cameras. Then I had $3 million. As the man drove away, I opened the briefcase and I looked at all that money. My mother had no idea that I was involved in that case. It was never told to the public on the news or anything. My mother showed up an hour after that man left. She came over, she knocked on the door. This time, I made sure I didn't go to the bathroom while she was here. I made sure I could see her hands the whole time she was in my house. She knocked on the door. I said, "Hi, I'm glad you're here. I was wondering about you." And she said, "What's up?" And I said, "I don't know. Did you enjoy your Christmas?" She said, "Yes, I did." Then she saw the briefcase on the table, full of money, absolute nothing but money, $3 million. Her eyes got very open, very wide. She looked at the money, then she looked at me. I've never seen her so quiet before. She didn't say anything. She just looked at the money, looked at me. Her eyes went back to the money, her eyes went back to me. Finally, she caught her ability to talk and she said, "Where did you get that?" I said, "Well, don't you know, Mother? It's my inheritance."